non-optimized image can really slow your web page load time, and that's not a good thing. This video will cover some tips, tricks, and techniques on optimizing the images on your WordPress site. Ideally, you should optimize your images before uploading them to your WordPress site, but if you have an existing site with a whole bunch of images, it's not too late to optimize those images as well. First, I want to cover how to optimize the images off-site before you actually add them to your media section. Then we're going to see just how easy it is to optimize your site's current images. Now, when optimizing images, there are two things to think about: the file size and the image dimensions. The file size can usually be reduced by an image editing program like Photoshop or any number of other online free tools like, for example, Dynamic Drive. You can just do a Google search for image optimizers like I've done here, and you'll see at the time of this recording anyway, there's a tad bit over 3 million results. So there's no shortage of image optimizers, most of which are going to be free. Let me demonstrate the use of one of these, this guy right here, the Dynamic Drive Image Optimizer, by heading over to dynamicdrive.com. You can see they got a ton of tools here. The one we're going to be looking at is this guy right here, Image Optimizer. Let's click on that. And you have a limit of 2.86 megabytes in file size, which, by the way, is a huge image. The one I'm going to be demonstrating is about 1.5 meg, so it's still pretty fat. As a matter of fact, that's this guy right here. And this guy right here is about 3,000 pixels wide, and it's being scrunched down to about 600 pixels wide through the use of WordPress. So you're really taxing the use of WordPress and your visitor's browser if you do something like this, like a lot of people do. They'll upload a huge image into their WordPress media section, and then knowing that WordPress can scrunch it all down for them, they'll leave it at that. Well, it still has to load that full 3,000 pixel width image into your visitor's browser before it scrunches it down. So again, it's adding that extra load time, using a ton of bandwidth. That's just a total waste. So let's go ahead and use this free tool to knock the file size down. We'll tackle the dimensions here in just a second. But you can either use the URL of the image or just select it from your computer, and that's what I'm going to do here. And that's the one that's on my post, but this is the one I'm going to go ahead and scrunch down, because this one's 1.5 meg. And this one here, as I hover over it, you'll see it's about 2.69 megabytes, and that's pushing it as far as the limit that Dynamic Drive will take. So just to be on the safe side, we'll take this guy here. Just select, open, and right here, I want to leave it as the same input type, but I want to show all results. Click on Optimize, and depending upon the size of the image will depend on how long it takes to actually finish this, but through the magic of video editing, this won't take very long at all. And here we go. And as it's shown here, the original, that's this guy right at the top, is 1.4 megabytes. Yeah, let's round up, 1.5 megabytes. And if we come on down to the next image that it's scrunched down by 25%, you really can't tell much of the difference between the two, except this one here, your browser is going to be pretty happy because it's been reduced by 25%. Let's go ahead and scroll on down even further. And frankly, this looks pretty crisp. And this one is 307 kilobytes, a reduction of 79%. Your browser is going to be ecstatic. And frankly, this is still pretty darn detailed. So depending upon the actual end quality you're looking for in your posted images, like if you're not a photography blog, then something like this, or even, scrolling on down further, 89%. Yeah, that's getting a little pixelated, so that's a little bit too much for my taste. But this one here might do just fine, and that is 244K, a reduction of 84%. So anyway, you can see that with this free online tool, you've got a host of different ranges that you can work with that will reduce your file size immensely. And not only are you reducing the load time, but also you're saving a ton of bandwidth, which in some cases can equate to a savings of money at the end of each month. Okay, so that's the file size. As far as the actual image dimensions, it really should not be left up to WordPress to do the reduction for you if you can do it off-site, and you can. For example, right here, depending upon your theme, the maximum width of your content area may be somewhere between 600 pixels, which is about the case with this one, to maybe 900, even 1,000 pixels in width if you're not using a sidebar. So having an image 3,000 pixels wide is just a waste. because again, the entire image, the entire original image has to be loaded into your visitor's browser before WordPress can go to work at reducing it to the size that will fit into the content area of that particular theme. So reduce the size before you actually upload it. That's the offsite stuff. Now, if you've already got a whole bunch of these images on your site and you don't want to go to the trouble of logging on to an FTP client, downloading all these images, doing the file reduction and the dimension reduction offsite, and then re-uploading them, overwriting those files that are on your server already, which would be the case. And if you only have a few images, then that would be an ideal situation. But if that's something that's just not doable for you because you just have so many images, then what you can do is try a plugin that will do a lot of that work for you. Two of them that I'm going to suggest. One of them is WP Smush It. Got to be careful how I pronounce that. And another one is Insanity. That's I-M Sanity, not Insanity. Both of these, once installed and activated on your WordPress site, will do a bulk reduction of file size and dimensions, which will take a lot of that stress off of your visitor's browser when trying to load that huge image that you already have on your site. But where these might only reduce the overall size, both file and dimensions, by maybe 6 or 7 or maybe even 8%. Remember, with the dynamic drive, these guys are doing it upwards of 79 to 85%. So again, ideally, the best way is the offsite and then upload to your site. But if that's just not an option for you, then let's head on over to plugins. I'll demonstrate the use of this guy right here, WP Smush It. Now, they both do the same thing as far as bulk reduction, but with WP Smush It, it does have a limit of 1 megabyte. So if you have a lot of images that are in excess of 1 megabyte, then you might want to try Insanity. Let's go ahead and install this guy right here by going to the dashboard of our WordPress site, come up to Plugins, go to Add New, type in here WP Smush It, click on Search Plugins, check out the details if you want to, or just click on Install Now. Click on OK, click on Activate, and here it is right here. Now you come on up here to the media link, and right here you've got Bulk Smush It, or you can just come into the library if you want to do just 1 or 2 images by activating that plugin. Over here on the far right of each one of your images, you have a new option called Smush It. And if there's no savings, then it'll tell you right here. Or if you want to just try to smush it even further, then you have that option. And you can see here that these two are in excess of the limitation that Smush It has, so you're not able to use that. And by the way, WP Smush It is part of the Yahoo developer tool Smush It. So if you are familiar with using the Yahoo tool Smush It, then you're kind of familiar with how this works. Same process. But let's head on back over here to Bulk Smush It. Just click on that. Just read this stuff here. And by the way, it's a good idea before you do any of this stuff, whether you're using WP Smush It or Insanity, that before you run the images through that plugin, you want to do a full backup of both your files and your database. That way, in case you're not happy with the end result after you do the reduction in file size and dimensions, then you can just nix the whole thing, reinstall things from your backup, and you're back to where you were before you installed the plugin. Let's go ahead and run all images through WP Smush It right now. Let's click that. And of course, depending upon how many images you have will depend on how long this takes. And you can see here the reduction size in percentage-wise is nothing compared to that of the dynamic drive option, but still every little bit helps. And that's an example of how you can do an on-site reduction versus the off-site reduction. But from this point on, you should always try to do the off-site reduction first before you upload the images to your site. That's going to bring us to the end of this video on optimizing images for your WordPress site. Thanks for watching. You have a great day. This video will detail some easy-to-follow ways to increase the speed that it takes for your homepage to load in the browsers. Now, if your blog posts contain images, then the first thing that you want to consider is optimizing those images that are currently on your site. Now, you can do this with the help of plugins like EWWW Image Optimizer, or Lazy Load, or Hammy. All of these can be found in the WordPress.org plugin directory. Just go to WordPress.org, go to plugins, and then do a search for that particular plugin. Or just do a Google search for WordPress Image Optimizers, and you'll have several to choose from. Now, if your homepage has a lot of image icons that link to like social media sites or background images or other images that show up on any and all of your pages, then you might want to have what are called CSS image sprites generated and put to use instead of having each individual image called on each time a page of your site is loaded into your visitor's browser. The load time speed is not increased that much by using sprites, but if your site generates a lot of traffic, then using sprites will majorly reduce the bandwidth usage. Now, to learn more about sprites, you can just simply Google CSS sprites or CSS sprite tutorials, or check out sites like SpriteCow.com or CSSsprites.com or SpriteMe.org. Okay, now that you have your awesome images all nice and optimized, you should consider using the More tag on all of your posts. For example, if we take a look at my post here, and I've got a ton of text, I've got pictures and videos, and this is all just one post, by the way. And if you have, say, 10 to 15 or 20 posts set up to show on your homepage, then your visitor's browser will be loading all that stuff each and every time that they go to your site. And that's just using a ton of your server's bandwidth and taking a lot of time to fully load in your visitor's browser when it doesn't have to. So let's take a look at the post editor and use that More tag that I was referring to. So right here is that particular post with all the images and the videos and the text. And if right up here, say somewhere in an area of the beginning of that post, you can kind of cut things off to where it might entice the visitor to click on the link to go to the rest of that post, kind of like a cliffhanger at the end of a TV show to get you to come back next week to watch the rest of it. With that thought in mind, let's say right here, I put my cursor, come on up here, and this is the More tag right here. Just click on that. Let's go ahead and update. So now, instead of having all the text, all the images, all of that stuff showing up on the home page, it's still going to show up on the actual post page. That's not affecting the post page at all. But if we come back here to the home page and refresh, come on back up here to the top, you can see that that one post that had all the images, the videos, and that ton of text has just these 4 lines and a link here that says continue reading. Now all this is customizable. You can put whatever you want in here, and you can put that link anywhere in that post. If you want to have that first image or that first video to show up on the home page, then move that More tag down below that. But imagine if you had something like this on each one of these posts, your front page or your home page would load in seconds, maybe even 1 second. Another thing is the number of posts that are showing up on your home page. Let's check that out. So you can reduce that too by coming over to Settings, go to Reading, maybe adjust the blog pages show at most to say 5. That way there's only 5 posts that show up on the home page, and then your home page will load lickety-split. And you can have, let's go ahead and save this real quick. Okay, so now we've got the settings saved. Let's come on back over to our home page, refresh. And you see how that went from a little bitty dinky thing to a much bigger scroller? Well, that's because we don't have all those tons of posts on here. We only have 5 of them. And if we come down to the very bottom, you can see this link right here. And of course, this is theme specific. Depending upon how your theme is set up, it may look a little bit different. This is the default 2013 theme. But if we click on this, it'll then show more posts. And if you do have a sidebar over here, you might have something over here for most recent posts or categories that will further help your visitors navigate through your site. The key thing though is to increase the speed at which your home page loads, and you do that by minimizing the amount of stuff that you got on your home page. And speaking of stuff, you might consider the overall design of your site or theme. If you got a whole bunch of stuff going on in the sidebars and pop-ups and flyouts and other gizmos that you're using to try and gather leads or opt-ins or sell affiliate products or AdSense ads, you might take a long, hard look at scaling some of that stuff back, especially if you find that a particular item is not working. Again, every little tidbit on your home page will affect the load time in your visitor's browser. So if it's not doing you any good, get it out of there. Now, lastly, if you're using a bunch of plugins on your WordPress site, you should check out a particular plugin called P3, or Plugin Performance Profiler. And what this does is just like it says here, it sees which plugins are slowing down your site. It puts together a report for you, and it makes it a lot easier for you to make a more informed decision on, do you really need that plugin to do that particular thing? Because you can now see how it's affecting the load time of your site. And that's going to bring us to the end of this video on optimizing your WordPress homepage. Thanks for watching, and you have a great day. Your WordPress site is written in a code language called PHP, and uses a database to keep everything organized, like your usernames, your post revisions, and a whole lot of other stuff you really don't think about whenever you sit down to write a post. Now, just like whenever you drive your car on a regular basis, well, every now and then you get a tune-up on your car so that it continues to run at its best and gets the best gas mileage. Well, your WordPress site also needs a tune-up on the database every now and then to keep your site running at its best and loading in your visitor's browser as fast as possible. Well, this video is going to show you how to do a basic tune-up or optimize your WordPress database. Now, I'm going to show you two different ways to do this. One is going to actually get your hands dirty, so to speak, by going into your PHP My Admin or your database and manually optimizing your database. Another way, and quite possibly the easier way, and more than likely the way you're going to be doing it, is by using a WordPress plugin, so you can do all of this work from within the dashboard area of your WordPress site. So first off, let's go ahead and test to make sure our site's working and nothing's broken. Boom, good. Now, it's also a good idea before you start poking around with codes and databases and adding plugins you're not familiar with to do a full site backup. That includes your files and the database. So assuming we've already done that, let's go ahead and log into our cPanel control panel. Scroll on down until you get to the PHP My Admin section, which is in the database area. Click on that. And if you have several WordPress sites, you'll probably have several databases. Just select the one that you want to optimize. And quite frankly, I'd say go ahead and optimize every one of them. But I only have the one here, so I'm going to select that. And it's going to show us all the tables within that database. Now, depending upon how your site is set up, this being just a test or dummy site, there's not a lot going on here. You may even have closer to 40 or 50 different tables in your database. But over here on the far right corner, this column that says overhead, this is the column that needs to be cleared out. And as you can see, there's no overhead on my site, but if your site is heavily used, chances are you might have a lot of numbers over here. And what you want to do is select the tables that have the numbers in the overhead column, or if you do have any overhead, then you'll have a link down here, kind of like right where a data dictionary link is. And this link will say check tables having overhead. You just click on that link and boom, it'll automatically check all the tables that have the overhead in this column. Then once those tables are checked, come over here to the drop down arrow, click on Optimize Table, and you are good to go. Within a split second, all those tables, all that overhead will be eliminated, and you'll have an optimized database. At this point, go ahead and do another backup to kind of get rid of the other backup that you just did, because this one is now fully optimized. And to do a quick backup, just click on Export. The default settings are just fine for what we're doing. Click on Go, navigate to the folder or the location on your computer where you want to send the backup to, and then just click on Save. So that's how you can do it the manual way. As far as the easier way, the more automatic way, if you will, it's by using a plugin called WP-DB Manager. And you can find this at wordpress.org/plugins/WP-DB Manager. I'm going to go ahead and install this now, kind of demonstrate the whole process here. So let's go to our dashboard area where our plugins are at. And if you're not currently logged in, then you'll probably get a box that pops up here that'll ask for your WordPress login credentials, your username and your password. And then come over to Plugins, click on Add New, type in here, or as in my case, paste, WP-DB Manager, click on Search Plugins. And if you want to learn more about it, just check out the details here or head on over to the WordPress.org page here. But we're just going to go ahead and install it now. Click on OK. Then once it's installed, you want to click on Activate Plugin. And more than likely, you'll get this same error message that I just did. Let's go ahead and take care of this right now. It says we got us a .htaccess file in this folder right here that actually needs to be moved to this folder right here. So you want to open up either your cPanel control panel or your FTP client. So since I've already got my cPanel control panel open, let's do that. Come on up here to our file manager and open this guy up here. And that's the directory that we want to move that .htaccess file to. But we got to get it first. And it's in the plugins directory in the WP-DB manager directory. Open that up. And here it is. So I want to move this into that other directory. And here's one way you can do that. Over here on the left, let's go ahead and open up till we get to that directory. Right here it is. I'm going to just left click, hold, and drag it on over there. And it's gone out of here. Let's open up that directory to see that it's in here. Now here's the kicker. This needs to be a .htaccess file. Right now it's an htaccess.txt. No problem. We're going to rename that. Just select this, right click, left click on rename. And I'm just going to delete that .txt. And at the beginning, put the dot. Simple Simon. Click on rename file. Now it's a .htaccess file. Let's come on back here, refresh our page, and that's going to be gone. Hopefully. Because that's the thing, though. It's in that error box there. It doesn't say anything about changing the htaccess.txt file into a .htaccess file. I guess they figure you already know that. Well, you know that now. Okay, so now once that's all done, we come over here to the database link on the left sidebar. Click on database at the top. And this is basically what we just saw over at PHPMyAdmin. So if you have any overhead, the numbers are going to be shown right there. Backup, this is how we can manually do it from within our WordPress site. We just come on down here, click on backup, and that's where it's going to put it at. That same directory we just moved that htaccess file to. Click on backup, done. Now, if you want to manage those backups that you've been doing, either manually or automatic, and I'll get to the automatic part here in a second, then you can either just select the backup and email it to yourself, download it to your computer, or if you've had a problem with your site as a result of a messed up database, select the last working database you have, click on restore, bing, bang, boom, you're good to go. Now then, if you find that there are items that require optimization, like that overhead stuff, come over here and check out the tables that you want to be optimized. Now, I'd say go ahead and check yes on all these. If there are certain tables that you know should not be optimized or should not be repaired, then make sure you've got no, because this is going to come in handy here in just a second whenever we get to the automation part. Now then, just click on optimize and you're good. Likewise with repaired database, check those tables you want to be repaired, click on repair and you're good. Now if you want to get rid of a table or clean it out, select the table and either clean it out or get rid of it altogether. And if you're familiar enough with the database to be able to run SQL queries, then you have that option to do that right inside of your WordPress site right here. Now under DB options, this is where you can get all things done automatically. Most of the time the default settings are just fine. And you just come on down here and set this up the way that you want this. If you want the automatic backup of the database to be done once a week, once a month, once a day. This depends a lot on the activity that takes place within your WordPress site. Likewise with optimizing, how often do you want that? Repairing, how often do you want that? And then save changes, and it's good. And if you find just absolutely no use for this particular plugin any longer, then you've got that option right here to uninstall it. And that brings us to the end of this video on optimizing your database and your WordPress site, both manually outside of WordPress and automatically and manually inside of WordPress. Thanks for watching, and you have a great day.